Okay, how is everybody enjoying their dining experience here today? Good. Well, thank you all for being prompt and getting back in and grabbing your sandwiches. We're getting ready to hear our keynote speaker, Commissioner Hope Andrade, and before that, we're going to hear from Mike Berry, who's going to introduce David Setzer. Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Great, thanks, Steve. Welcome on behalf of Hillwood and Alliance, Texas, and all of our team here that drives the development of this regional project. We very much appreciate all of you being here, and we're really proud and honored that you would choose to have this briefing session here at the Alliance, Texas facility, because we think it's a great model and a great working hands-on example of the kinds of things that you're talking about today and the kinds of things that you're working on every day. I've been doing corporate recruitment, bringing companies into Texas and helping companies expand in Texas with Hillwood, working with Steve Becking and Tom Harris up in the back, and our entire team here. Been doing it for over 25 years. And I can tell you every deal, every major project that we have worked on over that period of time, from the very beginning of Alliance in 1988 to today, every company that we work with, their top 3 criteria includes workforce and workforce development support infrastructure. You just don't know, and I know many of you here representing private industry are very aware of that, but it is such an important element to what we're doing in the whole economic development scheme here at Alliance, throughout North Texas, and across the whole state. And I know it's not unique to us here in Texas, but it is critical. And advancing the ball in the workforce development space by creating more standardized certification programs, which you're doing, and being able to market those to the companies that are hiring, whether it be in the logistics space or whether it be in the manufacturing sector, is critical to us continuing to grow these companies here and bring more companies back into the United States and rejuvenate our manufacturing sector as we're already doing in our logistics sector. So it's something we work on every day. We're very close to it. I often tell people selling real estate is almost a byproduct of what we do. We're really selling workforce, total landed cost, ease of doing business, logistics, long before we ever get to price per square foot or real estate matters. So it is very, very critical, and I appreciate everything that all of you are doing. Just to give you some current examples of things that have happened here at Alliance, Texas, literally in the last several months, and some of you from the area are probably familiar with these major projects, but GE Transportation has just ramped up a major locomotive manufacturing facility just on the north end of Alliance, and they were so bullish on bringing manufacturing here into North Texas for the locomotives that they then immediately announced and have completed and started operations on a mining equipment manufacturing facility adjacent to the locomotive factory, and several hundred jobs already have been created, and they project moving up to over 1,000 workers in that complex. And then on the heels of that announcement, Amazon.com announced a major 1.1 million square foot e-fulfillment center here at Alliance, Texas, which will employ over 1,000 people and which will open in less than 60 days. I think some of you may see it today, later, maybe. Or at least drive by it. But it's huge, and it's evidence of this massive change in distribution and logistics being captured by companies like Amazon in e-fulfillment and e-commerce, and it's changing the whole way we look at and design buildings for distribution and fulfillment activity, and it's certainly changing the way consumers buy and shop. Then last week we announced a 2,000 job project here at Alliance with Motorola Mobile, which was acquired by Google, and their commitment to U.S. manufacturing here in this facility here at Alliance and their commitment to jobs to actually build the new Google Motorola smartphone to compete with Apple and Samsung and others. So you're going to see a major launch by them here over the next several months to try to really establish themselves as a major player here in the U.S. and as a U.S. manufacturer. So all those projects are about people that are trained with the certifications and the skills that you all are all talking about today. And we're just one small example of what's going on around the country. And we need to be prepared. We need to be loading that pipeline. We need to be training that workforce. And most importantly, and I think what we're missing in this country, we're not getting young people excited about the career opportunities. I mean, we can write all the certifications and standardize all the training that we want to, but if we're not getting young people excited about the opportunities that are out there, we've got to get them out in these factories and walk the floors and see the jobs that are there and get them excited about it so that they want to pursue it. So it becomes more of a push instead of a pull process. And I think that's something that none of us can fix today. We can't do that with writing standards and creating certifications. We've got to really start at the elementary and secondary school level and get people jazzed up. So that's my political speech for the day. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who will introduce our keynote speaker. Our next speaker is David Setzer. David epitomizes if you review his bio, you'll understand he really epitomizes the ultimate public and private sector expert. He spent 30 years in the private sector with SPC Communications, but most recently, and even during that time, he spent a huge amount of his time in public service, serving as city councilman for the city of Midlothian, and then subsequently served as mayor. He went then and joined the North Central Texas Council of Governments with a key management role, and shortly thereafter was selected as the executive director of the Workforce Solutions for North Texas, which is the enterprise that coordinates all of the workforce development programs in the 14-county area of North Texas, and works closely with both Tarrant and Denton County, Tarrant and Dallas County in that regard. David's a longtime friend. We work together on a lot of these workforce initiatives, and he's a great public servant and a great entrepreneur at the same time. Please join me in welcoming David Setzer.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thanks to everybody that was a part of making this event. It's been a great morning, just great presentations, great focus on workforce development and some of the things we're doing in Texas. And let me start by giving a shout out to a couple of my peers. Judy McDonald up here, she's the ED for the Tarrant County Board. Kay Odell back in the back, the Northeast Texas Board. And we really work cooperatively between all of our boards. We've got a regional coalition here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but we many times find ourselves sitting at the table together with these economic development prospects and dealing with these workforce issues. So they're great and valued partners. I have to say, I consider myself, and all of us in workforce, we consider ourselves workforce professionals, but that also leads us to being economic development professionals, which you heard from earlier this morning from the Texas Economic Development Council. So we're engaged across the entire landscape of workforce development, economic development. We're there at the table with the Hillwoods and the chambers as these prospects come in. So we're working really hard to develop the the workforce that these employers need. And when you hear the numbers, just like Mike was talking about, the numbers that are coming here to Alliance, the last thing we want is a newspaper article that says something like workforce shortage for incoming employers. We don't want to ever see that. We want to be there, have the employees like you need, Joe, down at BASF. So being a workforce development professional, I'm really excited about what's happening in Texas. You heard some of the details about some of the education reform, and this is an extension of a message. You heard Joe talk about how long this has been talked about. A former commissioner, former chair of TWC, Tom Pauken, was a very vocal person about this issue over his term at the Texas Workforce Commission. And now I'm really excited about our new commissioner representing the employers and our keynote speaker today. And it's really a privilege for me to be here and on behalf of our workforce partners in the North Central Texas area to welcome her. Hope Andrade is the commissioner representing employers for the Texas Workforce Commission. And she was just appointed to that position by Governor Perry in March. So she's still in the drinking from the fire hose mode. I mean, she had a little bit of idea about what we were about in Texas Workforce Commission, but now she's really getting involved. And we're really excited about that. In that position, she serves as the advocate for more than 460,000 Texas employers. And just in my workforce board area, which is the 14 counties that surround Dallas and Tarrant, we have almost 10% of those employers, almost 46,000 employers. In this role, she ensures employers' interests are considered in all commission actions. Now, this isn't her first time around the block in serving the citizens of Texas. Prior to her appointment to TWC, she served as Texas' 107th Secretary of State from July of 2008 to November of 2012. As Secretary of State, she was one of 6 state officials in the executive branch of Texas state government. And she was the first Latina Texas Secretary of State. And prior to appointment, that wasn't her first gig with the state. So prior to that appointment, she actually served on the Texas Transportation Commission, where she was a commissioner from 2003 to 2008. She brings a wealth of knowledge about the state, about how we operate, our business climate, and that business background goes pretty far back because she was an entrepreneur and leader in the San Antonio business community for a long time, more than 3 decades. She served in multiple leadership roles in San Antonio civic causes, including the Greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Free Trade Alliance of San Antonio, United Way, the Board of Christus Santa Rosa, the San Antonio Symphony, and the Board of Trustees for Our Lady of the Lake University. And I might add, in just support of our board and what we were doing with the CLA and CLT when we were in the process of creating that and marketing it to the rest of the country, she came and became a keynote speaker at our Advanced Manufacturing and Logistics Summit in 2010. And that was at a time when we needed some visibility, and you came and gave us that visibility, and it made a difference. In recognition of our service to Texas, she's received a number of accolades, including the San Antonio Business Journal's Leadership Legacy Award, the San Antonio Leadership Hall of Fame Award, Lifetime Achievement Award from San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and the Trefoil Award from the Girl Scouts of America. Additionally, she has been named the Woman of the Year by the Houston chapter of the Women's Transportation Seminar and Small Business Advocate of the Year by the Small Business Administration. And she resides in San Antonio with her husband of more than 40 years. Thank you for putting up with your Y component. So please join me in welcoming Commissioner Hope Andrade.
Thank you, David, for that kind introduction. The only thing that I have to correct on that introduction is that my husband denies I live in San Antonio. That's because I'm never home. But that's the beauty of having a 45-year-old marriage. He's a great supporter. Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you for the leadership that you provide as Executive Director for the 14-County Workforce Solutions for North Central Texas. And I can certainly say that we're fortunate to have you in that capacity. A special thank you to Judy McDonald, who gave me the opportunity to attend the Tarrant County Workforce Solution Board this meeting. It was a great time for me to listen and learn. As you heard, I was appointed 3 months ago, so I'm kind of the new kid on the block, learning and doing a lot of listening. I also want to thank Kay Odell for being here. And let me ask, are there any Workforce Solution Board members here? No one else? When you see them, tell them thank you. Thank you for the time that they spend on this board, their many hours from their busy schedules to provide a great service to this region, to the regions that they represent, and to this state. I'm very proud to be the employer. Yes. Oh, I'm very proud to be the employer representative on the commission, and as you heard, we've got over 460,000 employers in Texas. With my experience of being also an employer, I will tell you that I never knew all the things that Workforce does for us. And I'm very impressed, and as each day goes by, I get more impressed. You know, I never thought of Texas Workforce Commission as being my partner. Some of you may have heard a story that when I received a letter from Workforce Commission, I would set it aside thinking, uh-oh, I didn't send in my report on time, or I'm getting charged for an extra penalty. But in reality, we are your partner. There's so much that we can help you with hiring, with firing, with HR issues, but also in helping you meet your labor needs. You know, when I heard Jean this morning, I have to tell you, Jean, that I am so proud of the work that Alamo Academies do in San Antonio, and you certainly are a model for this state. So please join me in giving a round of applause for everything that Jean does. You know, I was proud to be his commencement speaker, and I had heard of Alamo Academies, but I wasn't as familiar as I should have been. And when I sat there, actually I stood and shook hands, of all those young people that were graduating with dual credit, with already experience, already having known what a 401k was, and no debt, it was just wonderful. And so thank you for everything that you do. But as I travel the state, I also hear about great programs throughout that are being done on this effort. You know, I've been asked to speak about what happened on Monday. Well, before I do that, I want to say congratulations, Mike. I pulled this right before I left on Motorola, and you mentioned that, coming to the Alliance, 2,000 new jobs. That is absolutely wonderful. So this is great for this area. But you know, on Monday, Governor signed House Bill 5, which you heard about earlier, and there were so many people there that were celebrating this because it was an effort for many, and an effort that was much needed. And I know that former Commissioner Palkin was very involved in this, so I'm sure he's also very happy. But let me just summarize it. It says, House Bill 5 seeks to transform the current high school graduation structure by creating a single diploma, the foundation program, and enable students to pursue their interests through diploma endorsements. In addition, it seeks to reduce the emphasis on testing by decreasing the number of end-of-course examinations required for graduation, and to institute school ratings that provide a clearer understanding of overall school performance. I believe that what we were all trying to do was to make sure that we get our students out of high school into a job, into a skill, or into a university. And I think this is what it's done. And so, like you heard before also, let's make sure that we all actively work on making this successful. The other bill that was signed was House Bill 441, which is the Texas Fast Start program. And this is a career and technical education program designed to help students earn career certifications and enter the workforce quickly. You see, everyone in the state legislature has figured out that we are bringing many opportunities to the state, and that our current businesses are also in a growth mode. Remember, Texas has fared very well, and so we need to make sure that we keep having a skilled workforce in the pipeline. And so Fast Start is a great initiative for us to be able to do this. House Bill 842, the goal of this bill is to give school districts this flexibility to expand career and technical education opportunities for students. He also signed House Bill 2201, which requires the SBOE to ensure that at least 6 advanced career and technology education CTE courses, including courses in personal financial literacy and statistics, are approved to satisfy a 4th credit in mathematics and amends current law to increase the courses offered in CTE curriculum. And then House Bill 3662, which establishes the Texas Workforce Innovation Needs Program to provide selected school districts, public institutions of higher education, and private or independent institutions of higher education with the opportunity to establish innovative programs designed to prepare students for careers which there is a demand in this state. It was a great day in Texas on Monday because every bill that the governor signed was to help us get a prepared workforce quickly. The great thing that I saw also, and I know that many of you in this room were there, was the fact that we had Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Paredes, Commissioner Williams from the Texas Education Agency, Commissioner Paredes from the Higher Education Coordinating Board, and our chairman Alcantar from the Texas Workforce Commission, the 3 of them standing there saying we're all going to work together. We're all going to make sure that we work together to ensure that Texas remains competitive by having a prepared, skilled workforce. Ladies and gentlemen, I was an employer, and I always knew that I could go out and sell all the business in the world, but if I didn't have the workforce that I needed, I wasn't going to be successful. And so you hear, and we heard this morning from the Texas Economic Development Council, that they're very proactive, along with our governor and our leadership, going out and making sure that everyone knows about Texas, about the great business climate that we have in Texas. But it doesn't do it any good if they're going out there and bringing business to Texas and we don't have a prepared workforce. And it's not fair to our current employers if we're not ensuring that they have the workforce that they need to grow. You know, human capital is one of the most important assets for Texas. And so here are opportunities for us to enable that we get, as quickly as we can, our young people skilled, trained, and out to a job. That's the most important thing that we can do at this time. Also, something that I've got a great interest in is that I want to make sure that we don't lose that student. Okay? Yes, we've got him a job, but I want to make sure that we work closely with the private sector to ensure that they know that there's opportunities for them to keep growing, to keep getting an education. And that's what I loved when I went over to the Alamo Academy's graduation, is that most of those students were going off to a 4-year university. And that they were also, a lot of them also had jobs, but they also had a plan to continue their education. So this is what it's all about. Texas Workforce Commission is committed to working with you and our local workforce solution boards to ensure that our current employers have the labor that they need, and that the new companies that are considering coming to Texas, that we can assure them that they've made the right decision if they come to Texas, because we will have the right workforce for them. The other thing that we want to make sure at the Texas Workforce Commission, since I represent employers, is like I said, is to make sure that you understand as employers, go back to your human resources department and let them know that we're there to help them. You know, one of the things that we are always, we receive accolades for is for having the best business climate in Texas, that we have no income tax, that we've got a high quality of life and a low cost of living. Well, the other thing that we want to make sure that we have is that our Texas employers say, in Texas, they help us be the best employers. So the commitment is there from all agencies that we work together to help you have the workforce that you need to grow your business. You know, oftentimes, and I think that's the other thing that we heard this morning, was about manufacturing jobs going outside of the country. And, you know, manufacturing is coming back. And we can certainly encourage that even more if we have the prepared workforce. So if you hear everything that we have when we go out and promote our state, when we talk about our current needs, it all has to do with having the right workforce that we need. So thank you all for everything that you do to make sure. Thank you for the support that you've given in all these bills that got passed on Monday to make sure that that does happen. But you know, as I'm learning, and as I said, I'm out on the listening tour, and I know that there's so many people here in this room with the right expertise. I'd love to hear from you if there's anything that I can do to take back that message to the Workforce Commission. And I keep picking on Gene, but you know, when I heard the question asked to him this morning about funding, and I think that he said he was in a 15-year contract and he was in his 13th year, all I could think of was he's not going to have any problem with funding because the results speak for themselves. It's the outcomes that we're all interested in when we invest. It's what's the return on the investment? Is this program working? Is the grant that we granted helping the current employees grow and earn more? So we want to make sure that everything that we do is about the return on the investment. Is the money getting a return on the investment? Because after all, that's what we're responsible for. So I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions, if there's any interest that you'd like for me to look at, I'd be more than happy to. Does anyone have? Or I can continue talking. You know, I brought a lot of figures about what Workforce does. I just thought that at the time it wasn't, I would be preaching to the crowd of, you know, you all know this. Kay, did you have something?
Oh, it's underneath the podium?
Is that what it is?
Okay, this is an opportunity. This is a great opportunity for us because we've had some marvelous ideas from all walks of life in our industry, and we have the commissioner right here before us. What does she need to hear? She says she's on a learning tour and a listening tour, so let's help her, help us. Okay, what do we need? Please state your name and your company.
Thanks. Joe Arnold with BASF, and we spoke about this earlier today, and it's been a topic that we've had on the table before about the opportunities to work between the Texas Workforce Commission, community colleges, and businesses to create these partnerships to provide the training that is needed today on the ground, and instead of going to for the people that are in that gap, that have already graduated high school and college, that don't have the skills they need. It's been difficult before to use some of the grant monies. How do we work through that process to find the creative ways to fund these things so that we can get people that are underemployed or unemployed today into a job?
Well, that's a great question, and you know, two things that, and I keep referring back to the panel that I was listening to, but you know, I think the Greater Partnership, Houston Partnership spoke up, and the Dallas Regional Chamber, and these are two great conveners, okay? But one of the things that we pride ourselves in Texas is that local leadership knows what they need versus Austin leadership, okay? So I would recommend that, I think the chamber is the great venue for them to bring the people together. And then that grant application goes to Austin. But you need to tell us what you're looking for. You need to tell us what you need. You need to tell us what it's going to bring. Is it new jobs? Is it development where those people that are already employed are going to get higher wages? Those are the things that we look at. But I will tell you, at this time, we're looking for innovation. We're looking for something different that hasn't been done before. But where you start is with your local workforce solution boards. And I think that the chambers do a great job in reaching out. They're already, most businesses are members of the chambers, and this is a great way for them to reach out and say, what do you need? What type of workers are you going to be hiring? So that we can start preparing. There's no point for us to prepare workers that there's not a market for. So we need to just hear from you. But it's very important that our community colleges, technical schools, our workforce solution boards, our chambers, we all work together. That's the only way that we're going to be able to find out what your needs are. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question real quick.
Uh-huh.
My name is Frank Groundsman. I'm with TMAC. You may understand our organization.
Yes.
One of the things we do is we provide a lot of training for businesses, but they're very frustrated with TWC in general because of all the restrictions and all the rules required for how the money is spent. You just stated something very profound, that businesses know what they need, and we're trying to listen to what businesses are. Why don't you allow, not you personally, but why doesn't the TWC allow the businesses to decide what kind of training they need instead of having the TWC dictate what kind of training can be funded? We're frustrated a lot with our businesses that want certain kind of training and it's not supported by TWC. So I'm just asking, is there an opportunity for TWC to listen more to businesses and ask what they really want instead of TWC saying, we know what you want.
Absolutely.
And this is the rules.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And again, that goes back to the workforce, and I'm certainly not saying, okay, I'm transferring that responsibility to the Workforce Solution Board, but I will tell you one thing, is that we need to be flexible, okay? And sometimes it's difficult for us when we've got federal guidelines that we have to adhere to. We wish that we could do so much more at times, but sometimes we can't. But we're learning, okay, and we're exploring ways into where we can be more responsive to market-driven needs than what someone else may think. It goes to the same thing as someone else telling us what Texas needs. Texas knows what it needs. Tarrant County knows what it needs, but sometimes it's difficult to do because we're restricted. So I will promise you that, one of the things that I always prided myself was as an entrepreneur is that a small business owner, if something doesn't work, you change it, okay? And I wish that sometimes we do this more in state government, but I will tell you one thing. I've worked in several state agencies, and I'm very proud of the leadership at the Texas Workforce Commission. We've got a director there that is very entrepreneurial, and he was also an employer, and I think that makes a big difference. But we are listening more, and that commitment I make to you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Michelle White, and I'm the CTE director in Grand Prairie ISD, and I just wanted to offer the perspective of the public school. I just want to say that I know that school districts as well as business and industry partners as well as the chambers are reaching out, and it does take that collective interest in order to get that boat moving. We had a wonderful partnership that we developed with Holt Caterpillar. Holt Caterpillar has decided to pilot their own program, and that may give you some ideas on how you can make this work. They are using one of the schools in Grand Prairie ISD as a pilot center where they took on interns, and they paid those interns. Not all of our interns are paid, but these students went in, had the opportunity to train right there on that facility, and they're going to continue on working this summer. And we continue to try to build that pipeline with similar programs. And in fact, you mentioned Commissioner Williams. He came out and visited. Also, Mr. Pauken, and I invite you unabashedly to come. And I'm just letting you know that we are trying to work together, and we appreciate everything that you are doing.
Thank you.
And we invite anyone to come in who wants to partner, because that's the key, is getting the communication out there and people willing to just accept the invitation to see what's going on, because I think it's mutually beneficial to everyone. We already know that, and there's really no other way to do it than to open up the door and say, you're welcome to come in, how may I help you? And that's where it all starts.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. I visited Pearland, Texas, one of my tours, and I was very impressed with what they were doing in their high school. A local company that built the air conditioners for those big tents when you attend those events where they got big. He couldn't get enough workers, so he purchased all the equipment and installed it in the high school. Okay, so that when those students were graduating, they were ready to go to work for him. So it was a small investment when you think about how many employees he was getting. But it's all about, us in the private sector, and I consider, because I'm still in the private sector, us in the private sector, you'd be surprised what we're willing to do to get the right employee. We're there with you. Sometimes we just need to be asked. Next question. Oh, I like this much better. And you know what? I will visit you because I'm out traveling.
Madeline Barillo with Houston Community College. We spoke earlier.
Yes.
Can you speak about two aspects of funding in the state for these kind of initiatives? First one is Skills Development Funds grants. I think you allude to some of the restrictions that we face with that, but in terms of what are the perspective of funding for next year? And then secondly, you ask what can TWC do to help us as collectively in the state. I think regionally and locally, the community colleges and the economic development groups and the employers are coming together because we have one thing that everybody, there's a common goal. But what we find is that the people that we're trying to attract to these jobs, we as a state, and I think it's not only here, but nationally, the perception of the job and the career pathway in manufacturing and skilled trades, we have to collectively think about how we change that awareness of the parents and of the prospective students. So it's almost like we need a campaign about all the great jobs, good paying jobs, high growth, high wages, sustainable wages with health benefits, that we can create a collective campaign, and maybe TWC can help drive that, so that we can educate the community in Texas and the parents and students about those jobs that are there waiting for them. Maybe an initiative associated with, I don't want to call it marketing, but call it awareness of high growth jobs in Texas, and what do you need to do to connect to those. I think that will be great help.
I agree with you, and I think that we need to, and one of those House bills that I recited included making sure, or mandating, that the information about the jobs that are available be communicated to the school counselors, okay? And so we need to do that. But you have to remember that that's also an issue for society. So many years we've spent trying to get all our minority populations into a 4-year university, that for them to go back and say, oh no, now we're changing, that we want you to be a plumber. Although I'm going to tell you, there's a very successful plumber in my neighborhood. He has a bigger home, he has more cars than I do, and his children all go to private school. So they're doing very well. So but we have to teach that, and we have to expose our young students to that. It's like when you saw the picture of Keith Foods about what people imagine a warehouse to be, and it's no longer that. So it's all about exposure and education, that they can make a good living, and that this young man loves to do work with his hands, and he's going to be much happier. And I will tell you that you reach an age where you realize that it's all about being happy at your work. So we do. I fully agree with you. We need to do a better job in educating, but we need to make sure that our parents understand that their children going into a skilled trade, there's nothing wrong with that. And they've got a great future. And that they're still going to have opportunities to keep growing. Because this is a state that will offer those opportunities. I'm telling you, that's how I went out and marketed Texas. And so, you know, we need to do that, but we need to do it collectively. It's about talking to our neighbors, our friends. You know, when I was on transportation and I was trying to sell toll roads, I'd tell our employees, you're the billboards for us, because we all go to church, we all go to meetings, we all go to functions. We need to talk about it and start letting everyone know that these are great opportunities. And isn't it wonderful when everyone has a job?
And the funds for skills development for next year?
You know, I mean, funding is always going to be challenging. We've been, you know, and skill fund comes through the state, and so it's all. But you know, I come from a background that if you've got a good idea, and you can show me results, okay, funding was always secondary for me. So I'd say let's not limit ourselves. If we can make this happen, then including, but as long as we understand that it's not the state that's going to be able to do everything. We have to understand that it's a matter of the private sector coming together, the local community coming together, and the state. That's how I believe that we can move forward. It's all of us coming together, not being dependent on just one funding source. Leo, you had a question. And thank you for everything that you do and for sponsoring this. You know, you help this state have better employees and also keep them safe. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you very much, and I'm not sure if I sponsored. I think that Alliance picked up the tab for lunch, if I remember correctly.
I cooked it all, yeah.
So I appreciate that. Let me tell you just a very brief little anecdote, and then ask you, I think it's a critical question, maybe the most critical question in terms of actually implementing the HB 5 and S441.
Can y'all, they can't hear in the back, Leo.
Can you hear?
No.
No? Okay, well, I'll stand up. Anyway, one of my closest friends, the chairman of the Autodesk Foundation, told me a story recently about his giving a lecture or talk to the National Association of High School Guidance Counselors. And he said,
Hold it close to you.
hold it close to me, okay. I want the commissioner to hear this question too. And he said, I want to ask you, about 1,000 people in the room, high school guidance counselors. He asked them, how many of you know how to counsel a young person on getting into college, right? Every hand went up, every hand. How many of you know how to counsel a young person on getting a job? Not one hand went up, okay? That's a true story. Now, let me ask you then, as part of the implementation of HB 5 and so forth, is there anything in there about an extensive training program so guidance counselors, the people at the point of contact with students and their parents and so forth, are informed about the job market and what the jobs are out there and how you can get excited about it? Is that built into the implementation of those bills? I think it's critical.
And to one of them it is. They have to make sure that the school districts are getting the information about the jobs that are available and the training that is available. But I'll tell you, Leo, I strongly believe that the way to get this word out also is just for, I mean, you know, once a young, I'm sorry, Gene, that I keep going back to Alma Academies, but those, those parents that were there, you know they're going to go tell all their friends about what their son or daughter, remember, as parents, we brag about our kids. And so this is a great opportunity. We need to hold also the school district and the school counselors accountable for making sure that they let their students know what's available. And it's up to us to make sure that that information is out there. And, you know, I asked the question when I read this bill, and I said, isn't that information already out there? And they said, yes, it is. But now with this bill, it's being mandated that it has to be out there. Whether it gets out there or not, I still believe we have to ask questions on whether it will be out there. You know, I had picked up something that I had read about why Texas keeps getting recognized for our business climate. And, you know, you hear things about Texas, without a doubt, has the most dynamic economy of any state in the nation. Forbes said we were the state of the year. CNBC said best business climate. But this accolade I really liked. It said, in the most recent Site Selection magazine list, Texas took the top spot. They determined the list based on 10 factors, including new and expanded facilities, new jobs, state tax climate, and most importantly, career readiness certificates per 1,000 residents, among others. So it's very important what we're doing to keep growing that number, to make sure that in the pipeline we have people with career readiness certificates. Any other questions? I was going to get off on something else, but I thought I'd better, yes.
Another huge change for us is the transition of the adult basic education.
Yes, thank you for reminding me about that. I have something on that.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll get the information.
Yes, it was Senate Bill 307, transferred the administration of adult basic education from the Texas Education Agency to the Texas Workforce Commission. I'm very excited about this opportunity because it gives us a chance to better pair adult education courses with the skills training and potentially able to offer ESL, GED, and a skills certification. We held our first stakeholder meeting in Austin, well attended. We're going to have another one July the 9th in Dallas. If you have an interest, please come and share your expertise, your ideas as to how we should handle adult basic education. I think it's most appropriate in our agency. We've already hired, and I think the announcement will be coming out soon. We just hired the new director that will be taking care of this or leading this program. But, you know, at the first meeting, when I sat there, and there was many community colleges and representatives that had been involved in adult basic education, I was so impressed with what they had to say, because everyone is excited about Texas Workforce Commission having this under our agency. So please do not hesitate to share some of your thoughts and ideas as to how our commitment is that we want to make sure that it's successful, that we help the population that it was meant for, or that it is meant for, and that we make sure that it was the right thing to do to transition it from Texas Education Agency to Texas Workforce Commission. And I'm very proud of the fact how well Commissioner Williams and our chairman worked together on making this happen. So again, to all of you that supported this effort, thank you so much. But like I said, I'm very excited about this being under Texas Workforce Commission. I know I've got a few more minutes. Anything else that you'd like to add? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. All these House bills and Senate bills and things that you've mentioned today and other speakers have mentioned, how would I get a good summary of all that to share with the manufacturers in our region? Because we have a manufacturers association both in Dallas and here in Tarrant County, and I'd like to have a nice, concise way to tell them all the wonderful things that happened in this session that has to do with manufacturing, distribution, logistics.
I'll be glad to share my summaries with you.
Okay.
Amy will get your card. Amy, we'll get your card and we'll send them right over to you.
That'd be great. Thanks
And thank
so
you for
much.
helping us spread that message.
Thank you.
You know, I'm so excited to be working with the Workforce Commission. You know, in 2004, when I was appointed to Texas Department of Transportation, back then I thought transportation was one of the most important things for Texas, and it remains. When I was appointed to Secretary of State, I worked on economic development and traveled with some of you promoting the state. And when my term was over, I walked away feeling very proud of the work that I had done. I did an exit interview with the governor, and he asked if there was anything else that I'd like to do for the state of Texas. And I said, if there's ever an opportunity to work with the Texas Workforce Commission, I said I'd be honored to do so. Little did I know that 3 months later, Commissioner Palkin was going to be resigning. So be careful what you wish for. But I will tell you, the reason that I wanted to do this was because I had seen enough from people in the state and outside of the state that I knew that it was all going to be about labor. In order for our state to remain competitive, in order for our state to keep growing and to keep being named the #1 state to do business in, is we need to make sure that we've got a prepared workforce. If not, we're not going to continue being the #1 state and actually the best state in the nation. The other reason is I'm a grandmother, and I want to make sure that we have enough opportunities so that our grandchildren are not having to leave our state. You know, we like to keep our families close to us. So those reasons for me to want to do this. I had a visit from a gentleman that I had worked with in prior positions, and he came to my office and he said, "Ma'am, were you demoted?" And I said, "No." I said, I was blessed to have another opportunity to continue serving the state of Texas and the people of Texas. So thank you so much, Kay. Thank you for everything that you do. And to all of you, thank you for the great work that you do in making sure that we create those opportunities for our state and that we also fulfill the needs of our companies that have been creating jobs and helping us with the quality of life in this state. None of us could do it without each other, and so it's all together that we make the state so successful. Thank you very much.
Well, a huge North Texas thank you to Commissioner Andrade for spending your time with us today. We can, as you can tell, it's a huge topic for us, and it's a huge issue for us, and we have people from all walks of workforce development, from the industry to workforce boards and the educators and the staffing agencies to the state, and we're all here together, and we need to continue. Take the information that we use today, let's figure out how to work it. Industry, let's get involved, figure out what we want, and then communicate that to the educators and the workforce boards so that they can produce it. And I'm sure Commissioner Andrade will be happy to help us produce those results that we need to.
And remember, Texas Workforce wants to be your partner.
All right. You all heard it right here. Well, thanks to all of our marvelous speakers. I think we had a great lineup of speakers. Leo, you and Neil and Kay, and y'all put up together a marvelous group of speakers. Thank you all for all the great information that y'all brought today. And next, some people have signed up for a tour of the Alliance Global Logistics Hub. And as I mentioned, there was a waiting list, and I have 5 people that I can put on the bus, and I'm taking bids. This is an e-commerce, an eBay thing. No.
With tax or without?
With tax. No. Love to pay our taxes. Steve Harrington, Deborah Wallace, Frank Gruntman, Amy Bissett. Is Amy here? Yes, oh good. And Diane Mannion. Diane can't go. So